In ancient India, children were placed in the care of an enlightened teacher, a guru, who was qualified to look after the material, emotional, and spiritual development of the students. These schools were known as gurukulas. My name is Sanaka. I was raised in ISKCON gurukulas, in Italy and in India. I have mixed memories about my childhood. In many regards, it was exceptional. I forged lifelong friendships, and I was introduced to a rich spiritual tradition. As a child, I also witnessed different forms of abuse on a regular basis. Nowadays, many believe that child abuse is a dark chapter in the distant past of the Hare Krishna movement.
So the first problem regarding the children of ISKCON after 1977 was that many of them were being molested or abused, mistreated, or they were being deprived of food and medical equipment or just basic necessities.
And that now there is an effective child protection system in place. Although some progress has been made over the years, in many regards the current policies are still inadequate. In the Hare Krishna movement, political influence and spiritual authority often rest with the same people. This monopoly has created conflicts of interest that have frequently led to a misuse of power. Generally, the need to be respectful of the position of these leaders and the sentiments of their followers has been given priority over the need to protect children. This, in turn, has fostered an environment where accountability has been problematic and children have suffered. The GBC controls the Child Protection Office. Effectively, we have a scenario where prosecution, judge and jury are all working for the same team. The current system has little room for independent revision, appeals or scrutiny, and consequently credibility.
My name is Prem Sagar Das, and I came to Mayapur Gurukul in 1987 December, and I stayed until 1993. During that time, which was around 5 years, Bhakti Vidya Purna Swami was the principal of the school. Yes, there were several times that Maharaj beat physically the Gurukul children during my time. Maharaj was famous of carrying a bamboo stick that you could bend it and it looked like a whip. Maharaj gathered everybody on the Hanuman house, and older and younger boys were witnessing this punishment, and he requested every single boy, there were 3 of them, every single one to bend over and hold their back of their ankle. He did that. Maharaj used his bamboo stick as a whip to hit each one 3 times. The mark that left on that on that hit by the whip, I was very, I mean, it took days to fade away. It was red, and you know, so one of them had some blood coming, and everybody were completely flabbergasted to see Maharaj's action. Okay, regarding the sexual abuse to children, I remember clearly that in few occasions, or many occasions, Maharaj was approached by the student, mentioning that they were being molested, okay, by older boys, and Maharaj just couldn't do anything about it, or he will question. I mean, this particular case, which I recall exactly, he questioned the boy, asking them how did he knew that he was being molested. Now, of course, the reply would not be very clear from the children. So basically, Maharaj did not do anything about it, did not accept it, and kept filing the case.
That's it, because Bhakti Purnaswami, you're saying that there were 16 boys. The report indicates, well, definitely more than 30. You're saying it was consensual and of the same age, except maybe in one case where there was something. And this report it describes just rampant force and violent, you know, from older to younger, in multi-generational sexual abuse. In Headmaster, because the report recommended that he leave, he left. Follow the history. Like 6 weeks later, he's back in the same position. After the investigators, you know, went away. He's not aware of 0.5% of the severity of what happened, of how children were brutalized under his supervision. At the same time, he has a signed letter from '91 saying that he read the report closely. So if you read the report closely, if you read the report closely, it's not something you'll forget in this lifetime.
Bhaktivedanta Purana Maharaj won't serve in any capacity that is directly connected with children until January 1st, 2002. After that time, he may serve in a non-managerial and non-administrative capacity connected with children if the ISKCON Education Ministry agrees that he may do so. Bhaktivedanta Purana Maharaj may not at any time assume a managerial or administrative role in ISKCON, and especially not in connection with children. The current management of Bhaktivedanta Purana Maharaj's school is made up almost exclusively of his disciples. So even though Maharaj may not look after the day-to-day management of the school, effectively this arrangement gives him far more managerial influence than he should be allowed. In a letter sent to me on the 15th of September of 2011, Champakalata Mataji, the CPO director, confirmed that the Ministry of Education encouraged Bhaktivedanta Purana Maharaj to resume his involvement with children. Thus far, it has been established that the Education Development Ministry has encouraged Maharaj to contribute to the training of educational staff and curriculum development, which would be in line with a non-managerial and non-administrative capacity connected with children. At the time, Shesha Prabhu and Lakshmimoni Mataji were members of the Education Ministry. If we look at their history, we will find that both of them have a track record on child protection that is concerning.
Hare Krishna, my name is Lakshmimoni Devidasi and
Hare Krishna, my name is Sesha Das. I serve as the ISKCON Minister of Education on the Governing Body Commission of ISKCON.
In a phone conversation I had with Lakshmimoni in 2008, she acknowledged that during the 80s and 90s she physically and psychologically abused the girls that were placed under her care in Lake Huntington and in Alachua. Many of her former students confirmed these facts. Lakshmimoni has never been made accountable for her past wrongdoings. Today, she is honored as a respected teacher.
Shesha seemed just like his goal was just protective of Bhaktivedanta Purna Swami. And then I remember he wanted me to apologize because when I interviewed Bhaktivedanta Purna Swami, I didn't announce at the beginning that I had the report from 91. I didn't announce that at the beginning. So I guess I was being concealing. I considered it good investigative process. Like obviously. So I was just kind of, and as far as like the clear lies and deceptions from Bhaktivedanta Purna Swami, like didn't seem to be a concern for Shesha.
Shesha Prabhu has supported two other offenders besides Bhaktivedanta Purna Maharaj, Gauridas and Varkeshwara Pandit. In July of 2002, the CPO found Varkeshwara Pandit guilty of having sex with a minor. During the CPO review of his case, Shesha Prabhu acted as his defense attorney. In February of 2015, I spoke to a graduate from Maharaj's Gurukul. He described an incident that took place in 2012, where AK, a boy aged 17 or 18, sexually abused a 9-year-old child. At the time, Madhava Gauranga was the principal of the school as well as the head of child protection in Mayapur. He dismissed the episode as a case of child sexual exploration. Both the victim and the perpetrator were quickly removed from the school. It is alleged that recently there have been more similar incidents in Maharaj's school. Child sexual exploration is when the sexual play is between children of a similar size, age, and social and emotional development. At present, ISKCON does not offer any form of support, assistance, or counsel for child abuse victims.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So my name is Sri Radhe Dasi. I'm a disciple of His Holiness Indradumna Swami Maharaj. I also oversee the girls' gurukula called Sri Anasuya Vidya Mandala.
When Sri Radhe became the principal of Bhaktivedanta Purna Maharaj's girls' gurukula in Mayapur, she was 19 years of age. She had no teacher qualifications or experience. The CPO has carried out 2 investigations on the girls' school of Bhaktivedanta Purna Maharaj. The first was in 2007 and the second in 2015. The 2007 documents states that Bhaktivedanta Purna Maharaj was pumping water for the girls while they were bathing naked, and that he massaged them while they were semi-naked in their underwear. The 2015 report reads, based on the above statements, there should be zero tolerance of Sri Radhe ever teaching or caring for children, ever again, effective immediately. Both the 2007 and the 2015 documents state that Sri Radhe and Bhaktivedanta Purna Maharaj regularly spend extended amounts of time alone. The report says that students have walked in on them behaving in a frivolous manner and indecently dressed. On the 7th of May of 2015, the CPO placed a lifelong ban on Sri Radhe from holding any positions related to children. The girls' Gurukul has now been shut down. For years there have been rumors that both Sri Radhe and Bhaktivedanta Purna Maharaj were mistreating the girls. The involvement of a sannyasi in the education of young girls should have been regarded as unacceptable, even if Bhaktivedanta Purna Maharaj did not already have a history of child abuse. The CPO granted an appeal to Sri Radhe, despite the fact that she did not meet the requirements to be eligible for one. The appeal panel removed the lifelong ban. In 2014, I got the opportunity to ask Bhaktivedya Maharaj why he is still allowed to be involved in education despite his documented history of child abuse. And this was his response.
You are a convicted, self-confessed child abuser. It is estimated by your own admission that at least 30 children have been raped while under your care, with your knowledge but without your protection. You knew, but you did not do the needful to protect them. Why is it that you're still involved in education today? Why have you apologized? Why have you not apologized for your crimes? If you got a question, is this how you apply Vedic paradigm to your life? I would like to point out to the leadership of ISKCON that by endorsing Maharaj,
I'm not quite sure I understand.
Your two schools in Mayapur are run without accountability or transparency. There is no credible, independent system in place to verify the safety and well-being of the children. With your track record, this is reason for grave concern. You see, unless you accept responsibility,
will you stop talking? What does true mean? No, but what do you mean by true?
You're presenting a certain projection of who you are, but if you're a child abuser, that goes against everything.
What is meant by
child abuser? A child abuser is one who degrades a child, abuses him by inflicting a physical, mental, or emotional punishment, which is undue and unproportionate. So if you
then it's not true. Then it's not true. Then it's not true.
And I think if these claims are being made, there must be reason, because you have been running this school for 40 years. I met you in Mayapur when I was 10 years old, maybe. Okay. So I think just answer honestly. I think this is an appropriate.
If you want an answer honestly, then you have to be quiet. Everybody just talks because they feel it's just coming out and about truth and this and that. But you don't really want to know truth.
Is the spiritual life about pursuing the truth?
Yes, but truth means what's connected to Krishna. So do you want to discuss this connected to Krishna? Or is this just a social thing that you want to discuss? Of course it's a social thing. Otherwise, why would you be standing up now when it's a time to discuss the philosophy?
We're discussing philosophy.
No, it's time that if you have this, you come to me personally.
No, this is fair.
It's fair, but you're the one talking. You say, tell the truth. Then be quiet, listen.
Child abuse is when a parent or caregiver, whether through action or failing to act, causes injury, death, emotional harm, or risk of serious harm to a child. There are many forms of child maltreatment, including neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse, exploitation, and emotional abuse. It is important to note that failure to act is a form of child abuse. This is probably the most common and most overlooked form of child abuse that has affected generations of Hare Krishna children.
I grew up in ISKCON gurukulas, and child protection has been a concern most of my life. I have made several attempts to request a review of Maharaj's circumstances following ISKCON's appropriate channels, without any success. For this reason, I felt that disrupting his lecture was the only option left. The audience was more shocked by my disruption than to discover that a known child abuser is involved in the education of children.
Damodar Swami was the principal of the Vrindavan Gurukul for many years. The CPO found him personally responsible for physical and psychological abuse and neglect of the children placed under his care. Even though many ISKCON leaders were aware of the extensive nature of the abuse, he received much support and remained in his position for more than a decade.
And with Sanaka Swami, I know literally children are some of my very dearest friends. Sanaka Swami, dealt with harshly, and there's just no way that I could, disregard the pain that they had, and there's no way that I could, in my own heart, be defiant of justice that they feel should be made.
The GBC body is sorry for the difficulty you and your disciples, followers and friends must have experienced because of these long and cumbersome procedures. We could have done much better, and we sincerely apologize. It's like if a government apologized to a child abuser for the troubles and inconveniences he experienced while being adjudicated for his crimes. In 1995, Gauri Prabhu was the head teacher in the Vrindavan Gurukul. After an incident where he had beaten 3 children, a group of former students wrote to the GBC and was able to obtain a ban on the use of corporal punishment in the school. Braj Bihari Prabhu then wrote a letter to the GBC petitioning for its reinstatement. Following Braj Bihari's request, corporal punishment was reinstated. When the case of Gauridas came up for review in 2006, 3 GBC members wrote letters of support: Shivaram Swami, Shesha Prabhu, and Pragosh Prabhu.
The Gurukula and international school is a school with a difference.
In 2010, Gopal Krishna Maharaj took over the management of the Vrindavan Gurukul. He appointed Leela Purushottam as the new principal. As Leela Purushottam lives 300 kilometers away from Vrindavan, he needed somebody to look after the day-to-day management of the school.
New management had appointed Radhakant Das as the vice principal, and he took over from Anand Vrindavaneshwari Mataji. He was a 25-year or something young man, straight from IIT Kanpur. No experience of life, no experience of dealing with children, because he had been living a life of brahmachari and things, and no background of education or administration for that matter.
Okay, so tell me what happened with them. She feels like a key to our stomach, very hardly, and to our hair. She pulls like a key. Like our neck and our head is going in yoga. Anybody has any problem, and if we will not jump in Mangalarti, then he will come here and jump so much. Yes, Mati, can I speak in Hindi? जानते जब मैं वहाँ पर था, माती खड़ा हुआ, इन्होंने मुझे थप्पड़ दिया और बोला कम हियर, और उन्होंने मेरा पिंच पेट का स्टमक like a key घुमा दिया very badly.
In 2011, one of the teachers in the Vrindavan Gurukul reported a colleague for beating the children. The school management then asked the teacher that reported the incident to leave. Any school that operates with a policy that discourages the reporting of incidents is bound to have big problems with child abuse. I have many official reports filed over the last 6 years of physical, sexual, and emotional abuse to the children of the Vrindavan Gurukul.
From the very beginning, I knew that my loyalty was to the children and to Srila Prabhupada. So I met with Anuttama Prabhu and with Shesha Prabhu. We had lunch together and I narrated everything that had been going on in the school since the time the new management had come by. I spoke with Gopal Krishna Maharaj, and Maharaj voiced his concern. His first response was, in case, where is the written complaint? Who wants the investigation? I'll be out for 10 days, but I will definitely look into the matter, and please keep all this in the family. Do not take it out. Leela Purushottam Prabhu runs the management, and I, as the GBC, I can't interfere with the regular running of the school. But you don't worry about anything. You just get back to your work, which was collecting funds.
मेरा बच्चा भक्ति वेदांता गुरुकुल में वृंदावन में पढ़ता है। मुझे पता चला है वहाँ पर बच्चों के साथ यौन शोषण किया जा रहा है। मतलब इतना सही स्कूल, और हमने अपने बच्चों को जो पढ़ाने के लिए भेजा, जो एक भक्ति भाव से भरा स्कूल है, भक्ति धाम है वो, और वो वहाँ पे यौन शोषण हो रहा है इस तरह से। मुझे तो ये जानकारी बड़ी हैरानी हुई कि यहाँ इस तरह से काम परेशानी हुई इस चीज से कि मतलब मेरा बच्चे के साथ भी ये सब कुछ हुआ है। और इस मैनेजमेंट को सबको पता होने के बावजूद भी कोई एक्शन नहीं लिया जा रहा है। मेरे से प्रशासन से ये रिक्वेस्ट है कि आप कृपया करके जल्द से जल्द कोई सख्त कार्रवाई करें और इस स्कूल को बंद करने की कृपा करें, क्योंकि ऐसा यौन शोषण चलता रहता है हमारे बच्चों का भविष्य पूरी तरह से बिगड़ जाएगा।
Devashish was a person who was out of bounds for the school. He was not allowed to enter into the school. I saw that Devashish was hovering around the school too close. I was alarmed. And I also knew that he was passing by the security and he was entering the school. When I mentioned to him and I said, Leela Purushottam Prabhu, Devashish has a history of, child abuse, and why is he being allowed into the school? So his reply was, Mataji, it's none of your business. We know what we are doing, and he is a very well-connected person. He's known to a lot of very, very big people. He's very useful to us. And as it is, all this was only a Western propaganda to malign his name. There is no truth to all this. And then in the February of 2015, I get a call from one of my ex-students' parent telling me that the national television is reporting that the children of Bhakti Vedant Gurukul and International School Vrindavan have been sexually molested, and a man called Devashish has been arrested. And I was completely devastated, because in front of me were all my worst nightmares. I was living them. I could see that it was actually happening. What I warned these people, and they never heard me, today, was a reality.
On a worldwide basis, the leaders of ISKCON are really coming together and connecting throughout the year on issues that the GBC themselves have felt are the most important, crucial issues for the present and future of World Society.
when I met Prabhupada in Calcutta, first thing Prabhupada said when I got there was, "I'd like you to drive for me."
Kirtanananda was a convicted criminal. The US federal court charged him with conspiracy to murder 2 devotees. And the CPO found him guilty of child sexual abuse. It was charged that Kirtanananda ordered the murder of these devotees because they had threatened to expose his child abuse activities. In these photos, Radhanath Swami and Gopal Krishna Maharaj are paying their respects to the grave of Kirtanananda. This is offensive to his victims, but it's also a statement about the value they place on child protection. In the 80s, Sri Galim was the principal of the gurukula in New Vrindavan. At one point, the members of the community became aware that he had sexually abused several children in the school and asked him to leave. It is claimed that Radhanath Swami opposed the decision to ban this man from the community. The following is a statement sent to me by New Vrindavan Gurukuli. Bhima Karma is correct. Sri Galim and Radhanath Swami have been friends since the early 70s. Radhanath Swami did oppose excommunicating Sri Galim. At the time, he stated it was because of the devastation it was causing his then wife and children. Radhanath Swami is much better at being an inspirational speaker than he is a manager leader. With Sri Galim, he was the headmaster in the gurukula in New Vrindavan, and he sexually abused on a number of occasions the children in the school. And I was told that when the community wanted to ask them to leave, you opposed that. Is that true?
No, I don't believe that is true. I don't know where the information came from. My concern was Sri Galim had 2 little kids, and they were beautiful little children, and I remember I was very concerned what's going to happen to them.
Yeah.
You know, because of the sin of the father, you know, we also have to consider the effects on the children. I don't remember being opposed, but I remember having concern for the children, so I may have had some discussions with people.
Radhanath Maharaj regarded the distress the wife and children of Sri Galim would have experienced if relocated to be greater than the threat posed by allowing a known sexual offender to remain in the New Vrindavan community.
You know, the version of punishment was the time I stepped in is the North American GBC ruled that he was never allowed to lead a kirtan, give a class, or have a position for the rest of his life. And I just didn't think that was right. And, you know, I felt it was my moral duty to our society to at least speak what I feel.
Radhanath Maharaj regarded the sanctions against Varkeshwara Pandit to be disproportionate and unjust, and he felt a moral obligation to speak up. But somehow, he did not feel compelled to protect the victims of Sri Galim. It would appear that at least in some instances, he feels that it is desirable or at least acceptable that child abusers have positions of relevance in the movement. And of course, this begs the question, what sort of society is that going to make? If we also consider the evidence indicating that he actually went out of his way to oppose the banning of Sri Galim, we then have a rather disturbing picture. A person who is truly concerned with morality would first and foremost proactively defend the children, and not just the perpetrators.
I wanted to accept reinitiation from Radhanath Swami, and I asked him to accept me in the year 2000. He was very gracious to me, I remember, and I felt completely won over by him. I considered him my everything at that time. He was my spiritual master. He was someone who'd offered me really a great amount of kindness. One day someone sent me a link to watch a video, and it was Bhavananda sitting on the Vyasasan in Chowpatty, giving a class to hundreds of people. And seeing him for the first time since I was a child on that video screen sent such a knife through me that I literally fell to the ground and just started screaming, crying. It was so violent of a reaction. After that, I composed a letter to Radhanath Swami and asked him to please never allow that person to address his congregation because they wouldn't be safe. They would trust him because Radhanath Swami said he's trustworthy, that he gave him the position to sit on the Vyasasan. So when I finally came out and I told him that I wanted to write a book about what had happened, what's been going on in our movement, to my surprise, he the first thing that he said was, "But you don't have any proof." And I was really taken aback, like, what did he just say? He said, "Did our Bhavananda Ji," called him Bhavananda Ji, "abuse you?" And he patted me on the head and said he loved me, but that if I were to come out with a book, that I would likely be criticized, ostracized, and that would be very painful for me and my husband and my children.
In my own heart, I feel so much indebtedness and so much sincere love and affection for the Gurukula generation that it's always my priority. I get out, to what is the Gurukula generation.
Unhealthy behavior is a manifestation of an unhealthy mind, and an unhealthy mind is a product of an unhealthy environment. The effective and intelligent way to understand and deal with an unhealthy action is to examine the environment. The act is a mere symptom. So, is there something about the specific environment in the Hare Krishna society that may have contributed to the extensive child abuse that has taken place?
Forum for that. This is like if you bring up about lunch and you don't like the menu and how they cook the spices. This is the wrong venue. That's fair. There's not a forum, but why pick Bhagavatam class in front of the deities?
Even Bhaktivedanta Purna Maharaj acknowledges that in ISKCON today, there is not a forum where these issues can be addressed in a healthy and constructive manner. And this is precisely what enables people like him to be teaching to children today.
So it wasn't a thankless task. It was, dealing with what we were dealing with in the office, not just like the allegations and the perpetrators and the alleged perpetrators, and hearing from the children and youth what they went through. Obviously, there's something very distasteful and bitter about it, and perhaps the most disturbing part was a lot of, amongst many in ISKCON leadership, the corruption around these areas. And I don't want to paint with a broad brush. There was, and I'm sure still is, many in positions of ISKCON leadership who showed sincerity, not just in their words, in their actions, who gave a lot of money for child protection to be done properly. That was there. And there was also a very dark side. Like in my annual report for the Child Protection Office of 2004, I have a section entitled Culture of Accountability, which really it's about a lack of a culture of accountability. And in saying that there are not even minimally effective, it's just a sham, the idea of systems of accountability. Some in ISKCON leadership, to a large extent, they wanted to be able to say they had an International Child Protection Office, but they didn't want the office to actually do its service and do it powerfully.
Unfortunately, I was beginning to lose hope. I was beginning to lose hope in the system of child protection of ISKCON. I was talking to the biggest and all the right people in power and in position to bring about a change for the better. But unfortunately, I was getting no response and no result from anybody. Assure me that the children are going to be safe for future. And so then Burijan Prabhu told me that don't go out, because if you go out, you will be a very hated person by the community members. So he advised me that why don't you write a mail to Braj Bihari Prabhu and tell him that I have asked you to write to Braj Bihari. All that I wanted was somebody help these children of Gurukul. And I needed to take association of some elders, some leaders who would guide me how I could bring some sanity into the school, which was, where the children were really suffering.
Both Gopal Krishna Maharaj and Burijan Prabhu requested Anita to keep the problems in-house. Given ISKCON's track record on child protection, it is irresponsible to discourage concerned individuals from seeking outside help. Braj Bihari Prabhu told Anita that she had different options. She could contact the CPO, the MED, the GBC, etc. Braj Bihari has been closely involved with the Vrindavan Gurukul for more than 20 years. He is very familiar with the problem. He knew that these options he suggested would not help her. I wrote to him expressing my frustrations. He acknowledged that the CPO is a facade, this is the word he used, but claimed that in his role as ombudsman he was obliged to inform Anita of the options available without sharing his opinions. I pointed out that by failing to inform Anita that ISKCON authorities would not deal with the problem responsibly, he had effectively discouraged her from seeking alternative solutions, thus enabling more abuse.
Following recent problems in the Vrindavan Gurukul, Braj Bihari Prabhu has made considerable efforts to direct the support and involvement of the top management of ISKCON to address this pressing issue.
I have witnessed generations of Hare Krishna children suffer from the same mistakes made many times over. The CPO, in its current state, serves primarily as a damage control operation for the institution. It's a PR machine. The protection of children is secondary. In other words, the CPO is doing a much better job at maintaining an appearance of effective child protection than it is at actually protecting children. How is it possible that a society like ISKCON, that in a few short years has established a remarkable international presence, has been unable to take care of its own children?
The UK government describes duty of care as follows.
The duty which rests upon an individual or organization to ensure that all reasonable steps are taken to ensure the safety of a child or young person involved in any activity or interaction for which that individual or organization is responsible. Any person in charge of or working with children and young people in any capacity is considered both legally and morally to owe them a duty of care.
Naturally, the responsibility for a child lies first and foremost with the parents. It is not enough to blindly trust that a system of education will deliver what is promised. At the same time, if ISKCON leaders want to have schools, they're also personally responsible.
Parents, just be personally responsible for your children's education. Doesn't mean you all homeschool or just send them to the public schools in your area. If you're sending them to ISKCON school, know the history. I just gave some examples in this interview, where even in the most egregious place of abuse, Mayapur, the history again and again is covered up. So there's a culture of cover-up. Even in the past few days I've gotten information. It's kind of like, what history of child abuse in Mayapur? And I know there are parents around the world sending their children there. So it's kind of like, yeah, that's just painfully sad.
In 2011, I wrote to report incidents of child abuse in the Vrindavan Gurukul to a number of relevant authorities. Among them, there was Champakalata, Gopal Krishna Maharaj, Pragosh, Shesha, Tamohara, Anuttama, Braj Bihari, and Leela Purushottam. I pointed out that the inexperienced staff and the lack of adequate supervision created an unhealthy environment which was not conducive to the safety and well-being of the children. I explained that the Vrindavan Gurukul was a disaster waiting to happen. My concerns fell on deaf ears. As we have seen, many more children have suffered since. The questions that now arise are, who do we hold accountable for this negligence, and why is it that ISKCON still does not have adequate measures to ensure the safety of the children?
The ISKCON Child Protection Manual is the internal law book for child protection in the Hare Krishna movement. The manual states, no person, whether in leadership or clergy, who has been determined to have engaged in acts of abuse will be allowed to remain active in a position of trust or authority within ISKCON. Such actions violate civil and criminal laws, as well as Vaishnava spiritual principles, and are outside the scope of the duties, employment, and engagement of all personnel. ISKCON will not tolerate any such criminal behavior. This policy applies to all ISKCON temples, centers, projects, and activities within ISKCON.
But in reality, if you check the points that he makes, you'll find that they're unfounded. Right? And we don't manage the school. We just teach. We just teach. We just teach.
Indradyumna Maharaj, who is a long-standing friend and supporter of Bhaktividyapurna Maharaj, is also the guru of Champakalata and Sri Radhe. In 2011, Indradyumna Maharaj was posting these pictures of children in bikini on his Facebook profile. Without speculating on what may have been Maharaj's motives, from a purely social perspective, this is highly inappropriate. Champakalata cannot be expected to approach her spiritual master and take any adequate measures to rectify his conduct.
It is claimed that Indradyumna Maharaj financially supported Kiranash Das while he lived in Vrindavan, and that when Kiranash was arrested in Mathura, Maharaj made arrangements to pay for his bail money and to fly him back to the USA. Kiranash is accused of having sexually abused many children over the years.
With their actions, spiritual authorities set the examples for society. For this reason, their need to be cautious about the repercussions of their choices is far greater than what would be expected of you and me. ISKCON paid out $10 million for the Turley case settlement, and it is estimated that the new temple in Mayapur will cost close to $100 million. What would happen to donor confidence if it became known that Bhavananda and Satadanya, two known pedophiles, are involved in the construction of the temple in Mayapur, and that child protection in ISKCON is still undervalued and underfunded? It is not possible to quantify the price in lives, money, resources, and bad publicity ISKCON has paid due to the lack of concern for child protection.
Each year the funding dwindled. And so, okay, the funding, what was the funding? I'm going to say in the first year, if I'm pretty clear, it was more than 150,000 for the year, and that included administrative expenses and travel and office expenses, and it was more than 150,000.
A few years ago, Pragosh Prabhu wrote me a letter suggesting that the leadership of ISKCON is concerned with the welfare of the children, but that quite simply the GBC resources are overstretched as it is.
Gopal Krishna Maharaj and Leela Purushottam are now building a grandiose school in a rural location 50 kilometers away from Vrindavan. This project will cost close to $10 million.
They're going to get the best education in a very conducive, environmental-friendly environment.
As you know that we are planning to develop a self-sufficient gurukula community here. We need to develop this. This is a 60 acres of plot and requires a lot of support from all our well-wishers.
Given their track record with the current school, how can they be trusted to safeguard the well-being of an even greater number of children? What would ISKCON look like in 20 years if just 1% of the funds raised for the new temple in Mayapur and the school in Vrindavan were allocated for child protection? Is it really a matter of resources, or is it a matter of priorities?
The Vedic concept is that one's lifestyle and one's philosophy, that should be consistent. That otherwise then one's life and what one's values may be different, and that will cause disturbance on the mind, in the intelligence, and in one's identity, and therefore will cause social unrest.
Do I have to do an apology for every single person because they just found out about something? So that's the whole point, is I can't learn because I've been put into this little pigeonhole. And then what kind of society does that? Is that the broad-minded, uplifted, enlightened society you're talking about?
Here, Bhaktividyapurna Maharaj is suggesting that a progressive society should be able to move on and give him a second chance. Vaishnavas are supposed to forgive. Why are we holding on to the past? First of all, this is not just a problem of the past, but as we have seen, it's a recurring one. And besides, placing a known child abuser in a position of authority endangers the children, sends out a message of tolerance towards child abuse, and it's disrespectful to the victims. There is nothing broad-minded about it. And also, forgiveness and reinstatement are two very different things. We need to find the balance between treating perpetrators in a humane and considerate manner, while at the same time also ensuring that the children are respected, and that ISKCON is not a society where child abusers are honored.
They're our kids. Whatever happens with a court case, these are our kids. And this is going to affect members of our faith for the next 100 years. They're going to look back and talk about the pain and the suffering that some of our kids underwent. So we absolutely have profound moral responsibility.
Some regard my ongoing efforts to expose child abuse in ISKCON as a threat to Srila Prabhupada's movement. I see ISKCON as a society of individuals that are aspiring to become God-conscious. Exposing behaviors that are incompatible with God consciousness, such as child abuse, can only be a valuable service to the society. I decided to release this video after a long and painstaking evaluation of my own motives and the potential repercussions. There is an inconsistency between the way many devotees regard offenses committed to the leadership and child abuse. If I chose to remain silent about child abuse, that would be Vaishnava Parad of the highest order. Only when we acknowledge the extent of a problem can we begin searching for an appropriate solution. I realized that the long-term cost of my silence would have been greater and far more devastating than a disturbance I would cause by speaking up. ISKCON has centers in many undeveloped countries where children are at greater risk due to a lack of awareness. In India alone, there are several schools besides the ones I've mentioned. Without a strong and effective child protection system, we're bound to see more children suffer in the years to come. The problems in the flagship gurukulas in Mayapur and Vrindavan highlight the need for greater caution and supervision in ISKCON schools worldwide. In order to find an adequate solution, there needs to be a paradigm shift in the values of the society as a whole. The best interests of the children need to become the paramount guiding principles for education in ISKCON. Champakalata will soon be resigning as the director of the CPO. The advertisement Tamohara Prabhu placed for the new director reads as follows.
The ideal candidate would have some experience in education, counseling, or law relevant to child protection. One must also be effective in managing the office and have excellent communication skills.
The job of a lawyer and that of a child protection specialist require very different sets of skills. I really think the time has come for ISKCON to find a professional in the field of child protection to lead the Child Protection Office. So long as the Child Protection Office rests under the financial and political control of the GBC, its credibility, objectivity, and effectiveness will be undermined to the detriment of the entire society.
The CPO needs to have the authority to correct, when necessary, the inappropriate behavior of high-profile individuals. It needs to be transparent, visibly independent, and professional. Once this new body is established, there needs to be an independent and professional assessment to ensure the safety of every child in ISKCON schools. This will give the CPO and the Hare Krishna movement some much-needed credibility.
ISKCON has betrayed its children. The leadership and the community at large owe amends. There is a debt that must be repaid, not in money, but with tangible and measurable actions that demonstrate that the Hare Krishna movement will no longer stand by to watch their children be abused, and to ensure that the suffering of generations of children has not been in vain. The way we raise our children defines the future of our society. Children raised in a fearful and abusive environment where violence is tolerated will learn that it is acceptable to hurt others. Force teaches them to obey without questioning and to look at external authority to define morality. If we raise our children with respect, tolerance, love, and compassion, that is what they will bring into the world. We have a choice. What is the legacy that we want to pass on to future generations? Child abuse is probably the greatest and most neglected threat to the survival of Srila Prabhupada's mission.
I have shared with you my observations. I now invite you, the viewer, to draw your own conclusions and come up with possible solutions for the children of Krishna.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Please sign this petition for the implementation of zero tolerance on child abuse in ISKCON and the formation of an independent child protection body.